Guys, they just called it. They just called it for Pennsylvania, Charlie. It has been called.
Just called.
Just reporting it. Let's go, baby.
Charlie, what is the number?
What
is the number?
Is that it? Happened. Remember where you were when you realized that the Uniparty and all of these, just the establishment.
Just like everyone started dancing.
Just in case we won Pennsylvania. I said I wouldn't even talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got tasty cake.
Look at this man's face. I mean, really look at it. This is the kind of relief that you get when you realize that you're not going to go to jail. He said it himself on camera, out loud.
Do you know why I cried on election night? Let me tell you why, because I think you might appreciate this as a historian. Joe Biden sent the entire federal government after Turning Point USA and me personally. They wanted me in federal prison. Right. And by the way, that's what despots do, not Donald Trump.
They wanted me in federal prison. For the past several months, I've been going through every document, every Form 990, every corporate filing, every patent, every land record, trying to understand why now, the last few days since this video has resurfaced, why Charlie Kirk felt like he was going to go to prison. And I forgot all about the investigation called Arctic Frost. Today, I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to talk about all of the stuff that I've been covering on this channel. And I'm going to give a complete wraparound for the entire investigation, because to me, this is obvious. And if you've never seen any of my videos before, and this is the first time you've been here, first, like, subscribe. Let's get right into it, because I'm going to explain everything. And if you've been watching this channel, you should know this already. And sure, there might be deeper things that my current investigation into the artificial intelligence digital surveillance apparatus that I believe Turning Point USA is building for the future of the country, as Charlie Kirk also knew getting Trump in office was his only option, because he was going to go to prison. And it wasn't just for all the insider alleged dealing that I've been picking up here on all these filings I've been going through. It's not just Hoffman connections for vendor payments and all these obscene contract profits that have been made, or commissions taken, or Olympic media taking 73% of donation money before it hits TPUSA at the end. It's a lot more than that. This is really about Arctic Frost, the TPUSA investigation in its entirety. This is why Charlie Kirk was worried about going to prison. So let's start at the beginning. In April of 2022, the FBI launched a coordinated federal investigation called Project Arctic Frost. This wasn't some routine audit. This wasn't a single agency looking at a single organization. This was a multi-agency federal probe into 92 Republican and conservative organizations across the United States. 92 organizations. The FBI doesn't launch investigations into 92 organizations unless they believe there's a coordinated pattern of criminal activity. And Turning Point USA was a significant figure in that 92. Let's break down the timeline. April of 2022, the FBI launched Project Arctic Frost.
Why do you think Biden's FBI was really investigating Charlie Kirk?
Try to intimidate him. You know, it's interesting, Jesse, when I heard that today from Chairman Grassley, something came clear to me. Charlie had said to me a couple of years ago now, he'd taken me aside at one point and said, I think that we are being targeted, that TPUSA is being targeted. And he said, can you help us? And I said, anything you need me to do. And he said, well, listen, I'm just finding out about this. This has got to be what he was talking about. And now we know that Joe Biden, once again, weaponized the FBI to go after his political opponents. It's nothing but terrorism. It's an attempt to silence and intimidate. I'm so glad that Charlie was not intimidated right up to the last day that he had on this earth. That is why he is such a sterling example. But you know what? What Joe Biden did in his administration, we can't ever allow to happen again. You look at the climate they created, Charlie. We're reaping the fruits of that now. The climate of hate and division and suspicion that they deliberately created for years to try to hold on to power. It's despicable, and it's time to turn the page on it.
In 22 to 2024, investigations proceed under the Biden administration. November 5th of 2024, Donald Trump wins the presidential election, not to mention a year later, or within that time frame, makes the decision to pardon Tyler Bowyer, Jake Hoffman from federal indictment, leaving them to their state's demise if they so choose in Arizona. Now, September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was killed at Utah Valley University. And then September 16th, 2025, just 6 days later, the scope of Arctic Frost is revealed publicly. Isn't that interesting? Right around the time Erika Kirk takes the CEO position and presidency of Turning Point USA. The investigation was active for over 2 years, and Trump wins. Then the investigation dies. Then Charlie dies. Then we find out TPUSA later on was actually under federal scrutiny. Charlie Kirk knew about this investigation. Lawyers told him that there's a chance he's going to prison for a long time. He knew the FBI was looking at Turning Point USA, and he knew what they would probably find if they kept looking, and probably what they already found. Why do you think he was so concerned? Look at that video back again. That's why he cried. Not because America won. It's because he didn't lose. Now, some people might say the Biden administration went after everybody. They were weaponizing the government against Republicans, conservatives, liberals. And there's truth to that. But here's the thing. When you go to arrest somebody like Charlie Kirk, you need an airtight case. And I've said this before in my live streams and recent videos. You don't indict the founder of one of the largest conservative political organizations. That's a problem, actually. Political organization that's a charity 501c3. But that aside, in America, on a whim, you need evidence. You need documentation. You need receipts. And the FBI, I can guarantee you they had receipts. So let's go through and talk about some of these receipts. The Form 990s that would have put Charlie Kirk behind bars. Before I show you where the money actually went, I'm going to show you where it came from. Now, in 2016, TPUSA had $7.8 million in revenue. By 2023, they inflated all the way to $132.4 million that we can count. That's a 1,597% increase, which is a 16x explosion already in the millions to start. That's just over 7 years. And when did this explosion actually begin? And it began in 2018, the same year that Charlie Kirk met Erika. Before 2018, 7.8 million, slow, steady growth. After 2018, 14.8 million, 80.3 million, 106.5 million, 126.1 million, 132.4 million. And after he died, we don't even know what those numbers look like yet, but it's probably a lot more than double before he died. Now, some of you might remember Bill Montgomery. He was the original co-founder of TPUSA alongside Charlie Kirk. And in 2018, right around the time of this explosion, Bill Montgomery was pushed out completely of the organization. The old guard was removed. The new money came in, flooded the board seats with new people, a whole apparatus of individuals that surrounded Charlie with new faces and a lot of hungry money. TPUSA became something very, very different. Now, let me ask you something. Do you remember what happened around January 6th, 2021? I'm sure you do. There's been lots of conversations about it. However, do you know about TPUSA? Because allegedly, TPUSA bust in people to Washington, D.C., organized transportation, and they were deeply involved in the events leading up to that day. And when questions started being asked, when investigators started looking at TPUSA and who organized what, who funded what, who knew what, something interesting happened. Charlie Kirk and TPUSA completely went silent. The leadership shut up. They said nothing. Literally, where the Fifth was invoked, the Fifth Amendment, where questions weren't answered, where corporations' information was absolutely limited and restricted to beyond a reasonable reproach. And I'm not saying Charlie Kirk did anything illegal on January 6th. You're free to send people wherever you want if they're on their own will, of course. But what I am saying is that there's a pattern of behavior here that seems to be evasive. The legal maneuvering, the sudden silence, the pattern telling you something. And that's just one circumstance. And when Arctic Frost started to look into TPUSA's finances, he might have known exactly what they would find beyond anything that January 6th had to talk about. Every nonprofit in America files Form 990s with the IRS. It's public. We've looked at them on my channel. Anyone can look them up. It's public information. Again, Form 990s, go to ProPublica, go to the IRS. The Form 990s show where the money comes from, where it went, who got paid, and what insider transactions may have occurred. IRS Section 7206, filing a false return can put 3 years of prison onto your life. Not to mention the money. Every number I'm about to share was reported by TPUSA themselves under penalty of perjury. These are their numbers, their signatures, their admissions. Before we get, though, into these insider alleged payments that I've found, let me show you something first that every American donor needs to understand and be sick about, because it really ticks me off. TPUSA is an organization that claims to fight for American values, American workers, American interests, and has been sending to all these other people, entities, even tens of thousands of dollars, if not way more than that, over various years, various filings to various other things. One, like the Experience Israel project, which I covered on my channel. I've traced close to $100,000 just giving money away to Israel's Show Faith by Works is what I think is they're giving money to. And you've seen this and it kind of came and went. But Show Faith by Works is filed under FAA, and they are an Israeli propaganda machine sent to act as a guise under Judeo-Christian values and work hand in hand with a corporation like TPUSA. And Turning Point is funding and helping fund that organization. All right. You need to understand they are on their Form 990s sending money to Israel for something called the Experience Israel Project, which is exactly what Show Faith by Works does. Whether or not it is Show Faith by Works, you shouldn't be sending money to a foreign government or a foreign country when you're supposed to be educating Americans on American values. That's against the law. It's against their mission statement. It's donor money, American donor money, flowing out of the country to a foreign nation. Now, I'm not here to debate policy of another country. That's not the point. The point is that if you donated money to Turning Point USA because you believed in America first, your money went to multiple other countries, lined the pockets of other people, and Charlie got swarmed with greedy, money-hungry people that did not let him stop working. So he probably didn't even notice. Charlie may have not have been an angel, but I guarantee you that there was a lot more money flowing in and out of these people's pockets than he may have ever realized. And that's probably why he ordered a Doge effort. So the money that didn't leave the country, it went into the pockets of executives and TPUSA leadership. Let me show you exactly where. Over $20 million. That's the total that I've documented from their own form filings. And if you want to see them, I'll put some of the links down below. Payments flowing from TPUSA entities to companies controlled by insiders. Jake Hoffman, for example. Hoffman is an Arizona state senator. He sits on the Transportation and Technology Committee, which means he oversees the exact regulations that govern drone corridors and 5G infrastructure in Arizona. You need to remember that. It's going to matter later today. It's going to matter later in my investigation. He's also the CEO of a company called Rally Forge and also 110 LLC. These are the firms that TPUSA had used to run Facebook ads and other various digital operations. Now, on April 26, 2024, an Arizona grand jury indicted Jake Hoffman with 9 felony accounts, and also Tyler Bowyer. Conspiracy, fraudulent schemes, forgery. He was one of Arizona's fake electors, and he signed documents claiming Donald Trump won the 2020 election in Arizona when they say he didn't. It's on paper. Trump pardoned him in November of 25 for federal offenses, but here's what most people don't understand about a presidential pardon is that in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, a pardon grants only federal offenses. A spokesperson for Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays stated that pardons will have no impact on the state's case. As of right now today, Jake Hoffman remains an active criminal defendant. So does Tyler Bowyer in an Arizona state case. But the indictment isn't even the worst part. In October of 2020, Facebook permanently banned Rally Forge from their platform. And I want you to hear exactly what they called it. It was a domestic troll farm. You've probably heard this word or this sentence spouted about the internet by now. What should make you pretty upset is that Turning Point, after all of this, continued to just pay out funds. They just kept paying. They kept giving millions of dollars to Jake Hoffman through Turning Point Action, Turning Point USA, like nothing ever happened. And while we're talking about Jake Hoffman, let me tell you about his PPP loans that we've covered already. During COVID, Rally Forge received Paycheck Protection Program loans, and these were supposed to help businesses that keep employees on payroll during the pandemic. According to ProPublica data and state government records, Rally Forge reported having 0 employees and salaries that don't match up with their actual operations. In fact, the year before that, they took in $1.8 million from Turning Point Action, and then they filed for $17,000 for a little bit of help during the pandemic after taking in $1.8 million. That was just one contract that we know about from Turning Point Action. The company misrepresented their activities and their salary amounts to obtain a federal COVID grant, and then they got relief from it and didn't have to pay it back. Guess who paid that back? I'm sure you can guess. That's called loan fraud. That's a federal crime. And this is the guy that TPUSA paid over $7 million to. But he's also got another company, 110 LLC, the same UPS mail address box as Rally Forge LLC. This company's received $4 million plus. The pattern you need to understand is that 110 LLC received all of this money But it was found voided by the state because they haven't paid just $552 in tax bills for their LLC costs. A company received $4 million and couldn't pay $500. This is ridiculous, man. That's not a business. That's a conduit. Money flowing in, money flowing out, and the shell company serves its purpose and nobody pays the bills. We're going to see this pattern again with the life insurance company GGLF 2023. Now, let's talk about Tyler Bowyer. They just keep switching his title around, and I'm sure that's for a reason. He's described himself as basically the person who runs everything and has big balls. He said it himself. He was indicted along with Jake Hoffman. His disclosed compensation from TPUSA entities is totaling over $1.4 million. But where it gets interesting is that he put $650,000 down payment cash on over a $2 million home with taxes. Think about it, $650,000 cash down payment with only $1.4 million reported. How do you do that? Over a decade? How do you do that? Especially when you're flying on private jets and you're doing all this stuff. So you're taking donor money and you're just funding a really lavish lifestyle. I think there's something more here to this picture. Back in 2011, Bowyer was losing everything to foreclosure. So you would think that he'd probably want to take care of his funds. Maybe he did. And maybe that's why he just saved up a nest egg of $650,000 cash. I don't know. You be the judge of that. Or maybe someone else will be soon. Now, Stacey Sheridan is probably the most egregious out of everything here. All these people that we're going to talk about and all these entities that have been involved in Charlie Kirk's life. Stacey Sheridan is the Chief Development Officer for Turning Point USA. And that's a fancy title for head of fundraising. And her job is to raise money for the organization. She gets paid a salary to do this, $180,000 plus a year. She went from $180,000 a year to extracting over millions of dollars, like 30x the amount of money she's making as a salary. She's extracted more money than Wayne LaPierre from the NRA. That dude did federal time. He was banned from doing any type of business with nonprofits. He took like $4 million. She's taken like, in my opinion, what I see, allegedly like 6, 7, 8 million. I don't know. I'd have to look through the numbers again. I've looked through so much. It's just crazy. I mean, when you understand what's happening here, she's getting paid a salary to raise money for Turning Point USA, and then her own companies are getting paid millions of dollars on the money that she raises. That's double dipping, triple dipping, quadruple dipping with 3 companies. Now, let me talk to you about Olympic Media. This is a company that appears on TPUSA's 990 filings as a fundraiser, and the numbers are absolutely insane. I wish I was Olympic Media. I mean, if anybody took in $2.8 million and they kept $2.1 million as a fee, I think anybody would want that job, right? Why would any company raise $2.8 million and then keep $2.1 million as a commission for their fee? What the hell kind of fundraising job is that? And do the donors know that? Or were they the donors and they are just like laundering money through their own organizations with TPUSA? Who can answer these questions? That's a 73.7% commission. That's almost 3/4 of a commission. Let me say that again. For every dollar given, Olympic Media kept close to 74 cents on the dollar. TPUSA got 26 cents on each dollar. Where is this money going and why is it so much? That's not fundraising. That's extraction. I don't care who you are. That's potentially money laundering. Okay. Now, let me tell you about the donors, because these people actually gave money to TPUSA thinking they were supporting conservative causes. Yeah, there's plenty of people that gave millions wanting a specific purpose. Okay, those are few and far between. Most people, hundreds of thousands of conservative Americans, gave $10, $20, $50, $100, $1,000, and they got nothing that they wanted in return. Maybe they did. I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But I've seen people already asking for money back because they were donating money in return of maybe getting a hat as a thank you, and they got a letter saying, you're not getting jack, you know what? Or maybe a bracelet, which is ridiculous. Donors were promised items like hats in their contributions, and they received rubber bracelets or nothing at all. In Pam's case, that's called false advertising. No goods or services provided for money of these donations when you're offering something for that donation in return. When you reach out for discrepancies, some people got no response, some people got their money back. I'd love to see what happens if every single donor asks for their money back. So adding this all up, just this alone, you've got Jake Hoffman, Rally Forge, 110 LLC with millions, Tyler Bowyer with over $1.4 million, fake elector, fraudulent, scheme going on there. $650,000 cash down payment, a $250,000 boat sitting somewhere, Olympic Media, $4 million and 73% commission, Stacey Sheridan with millions of dollars, more than Wayne LaPierre from the NRA, insider transactions, millions. The total is something like 19 or $20 million in insider payments that I've tracked over the last 6 to 8 weeks in my investigation. That's nearly $20 million in documented payments to insider controlled entities, people sitting on the board, Lori Frantzve, Tyler Bowyer, Charlie Kirk, Jake Hoffman, all these people doing all of this shady stuff from a tax exempt nonprofit charity that's educating, or supposed to be educating, Americans on American values for young citizens of the United States that are conservative, trying to learn how to live a nice American patriotic way. But instead, they're getting money grifted from insiders, executives, fattening their pockets, seething at their gills with just money. And this is probably what the FBI found. This is what Project Arctic Frost was investigating. And this is what Charlie Kirk was probably worried about. And it's probably a lot more than what I know about. Now, another person who's supposed to be overseeing all of this is Justin Olson, the chief financial officer of Turning Point USA, or at least was at the time. And this person responsible for financial oversight has no CPA license. And you've also got Baker Tilly, who's failed 83% of the audits over the last 12 when they've been audited by the PCAOB, their own board that they have to answer to. So the auditor of the auditor has caught the auditor not auditing properly. I mean, this seems intentional. And if it's not, I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it's not intentional. How about that? So does this lead to Charlie doing prison time? You know, Baron Coleman told a story about Theranos and the young lady that ended up doing 11 years in prison because she was hungry for building a health device that was supposed to be able to test 200 various diseases and viruses. And it sounds very similar to what happened to Charlie. You know, when you have a vision in sight, and you've got all these powerhouse, money-hungry people around you, probably get lost in that vision and don't realize what's actually happening around you. And it's sad to see. So all of these people filing 990s and just taking money off the top while Charlie's on the road constantly preaching and arguing, or not arguing, but having conversations with students all over the country, people that are threatening his lives, and his life was taken. Now, we'll go a little bit deeper because the financial self-dealing is just the surface level. We have GGLF 2023 LLC, Wyoming secret company that TPUSA gave, which was owned by Charlie Kirk, the president CEO of Turning Point USA, and connected to his life insurance policy. It's a split dollar life insurance policy. On the Form 990, it shows TPUSA gave a $350,000 loan. The company's founder's life insurance policy is connected to that loan. So TPUSA has self-interest in that loan, because with the split dollar life insurance, the way the deal works out is however the corporation and the person who dies, whatever that deal is, it gets fulfilled on the death as long as you file within the proper time frame. But what's crazier than that is that the FBI seized 3 companies from the same registered agent that was connected directly to North Korean money laundering, Registered Agents Incorporated out of Sheridan, Wyoming. Same suite number, same address. Do you not think something's fishy there? Why would you use and renew with the same registered agent incorporation that literally got caught by the FBI and seized for washing money for North Korean weapons of mass destruction? I mean, what is that about? Why not work with another agent? Wyoming Secretary of State Chuck Gray stated publicly, if they didn't commit fraud in their filings, we would not have statutory authority to dissolve these Kim Jong-un entities. So he named the registered agent, which is Registered Agents Inc., the same one that registered GGLF 2023. There's so many shady things going on with that. It's crazy. I mean, all of these obscure people in and out of Charlie's life that he probably didn't even know about. It's very easy for Charlie to just see all of this, and it piles on top of him and gets very stressful. You got to imagine how stressful this must have been. His last trip was to South Korea, and he was there to protest raids on the Unification Church. And Candace Owens has talked tons about Unification Church, and that has some concerns around it. And he apparently had concerns when he got back. And then Charlie goes to South Korea, meets with a pastor connected to this Unification Church. The pastor gets arrested. Charlie goes to Japan, back to the United States, and then he was killed in Utah Valley University 6 days later. And then we learn later on about Arctic Frost. What was Charlie doing in South Korea? And what concerns did he have that he wanted to discuss that was so important that he had to be there? right before he went to Utah Valley and embarked on this Prove Me Wrong tour. And Erika Kirk, CEO of Turning Point USA. I mean, come on, guys. Come on, guys. You've seen this now. You've seen what this mess has become now. What is she doing? PJ is right. PJ Sears, did you see his thing on X? Yeah, I mean, imagine, like if I died, right? God forbid. My wife is going to come in here and just start podcasting. That's what she's going to do. Just leave my daughter alone and just start podcasting. That's what she's going to do. This is ridiculous. She has no business doing what she's doing. You could tell. What is she doing speaking at the Make Heaven Crowded tour? Oh, let me tell you, probably using that as a religious fund in order to run and wash money, in my opinion, probably launder money. But it's not even just that. They're making people sign health forms. They're also now working with the NDAA to fly drones and capture geo-fenced and geo-mapping data of people at all of their events through Superfeed, which Lori Frantzve, her mother, is on the board. Tyler Bowyer is on the board. So now we've got this data harvesting apparatus that's filled all the way into this thing. You've got Farnsworth and the Farnsworth family and the Hoffman family with plot lands with Eagle CFR 5022 permits for no FAA oversight, similar to how Fort Huachuca is. You've got Thiel and JD Vance getting involved now. You've got all these people involved. So to me, it looked like it was an all or nothing case for Charlie Kirk. He knew he had to get President Trump elected. That's why he was so blatant about it. But I think it's because there's an end game here. You've got an intelligence, digital signature data harvesting apparatus with every single high school in the United States looking to have a chapter of TPUSA engaged in their school. And when that happens, all bets are off because they control everything. Peter Thiel, now on the Epstein files, Peter Thiel is involved with Palantir, all this money behind him. Again, there's a lot of shady characters, a lot of big money, a lot of people depending on Charlie to come through, get President Trump elected, and then JD Vance follow right behind. So if you want to answer, why do you think Charlie Kirk was so stressed before Trump got elected? It's because his life depended on it. And they took it anyways. Nobody will know for sure, right? Maybe there is more that will come out. Maybe they will still go after Turning Point USA because if they had an airtight case, then they're going to have an airtight case later, depending on statutes. So we'll see what happens. But all of this stuff that I said here, we've been talking about it on this channel. I've showed receipts. I've got more receipts to show in the near future. We're going to talk a whole lot more about this AI, intelligence, digital apparatus that I've been discovering. Because what they're telling you and what is actually happening are two very, very different things.